These are just some of the teams that are in trouble around Europe. We see Tottenham Hotspur in 17th in the Premier League, just above that drop zone where West Ham currently hold that final spot. Wolfsburg are in the relegation zone, 17th, that second bottom place in Germany. Sevilla, having just sacked their coach, are in 15th and are in a bit of free fall. And Fiorentina have done well to get to this point, having started the season so terribly. They are just the 2 points above the drop zone in Serie. These are some of the big clubs that could potentially go down. So it's time to avoid the drop here on Scoreline. Avoid the drop. Oh, no, don't look down. Don't look down. But some teams, unfortunately, are right now. Let's start first in Germany. Tell me a bit about Wolfsburg and how significant it would be if a club of this size, who spend the amount of money that they do, they're currently in a relegation spot. They're 3 points off of the playoff, currently held by St. Pauli, and 5 points off of that automatic safety position. Wolfsburg were to go down. That's catastrophic for them.
Yeah, German champions. What year do you remember?
2008-09.
Correct. Grafici, Dzeko, remember the history. I mean, I'm not surprised to see, obviously, the talent that they've got at their disposal with head and hands. Wolfsburg spend a lot of money in and around their team. They're not the biggest spenders in Germany, but they have immense financial backing. This is such a top professional club that pay good salaries, pay a lot on player transfers to try be competitive, and for some reason, they're not. Why do I not think that's happening? I don't think there's enough pressure. I don't. I think that the fans just, excited to go watch a game, go home. And I don't think there's enough pressure at this.
But there will be now.
There is now for the players, from executives, from management. But is it from the fans? Is it from the media? I don't think so. That's why I think sometimes you can get sucked into it. They have been, obviously, in the Bundesliga playoff position for the relegation. That's been a problem for them. But this is a Wolfsburg side that is through talent. I mean, they've got so much. Stuffed with talent. To be in this position is absolutely crazy, but I'm delighted because my FC St. Pauli are just above them, and if anything, I hope they collapse and they go down. No offence to Wolfsburg, they've been very kind to me in my time. FC St. Pauli are struggling with scoring goals, but this season's been a disaster for scoring goals, and that's why they're in the position they are in. They didn't have this man, Jackson Irvine, in their lineup for a long period of time through injury. I think he's preparing for the World Cup more than focusing on his FC St. Pauli, but that's a personal choice. I do think that they are the team that can get out of it. And I do think that FC Cologne can get sucked back into that relegation playoff position. But I actually hate to say it as is right now, that Heidenheim and Wolfsburg, I think, automatically are down.
Which is shocking for a club like Wolfsburg.
Yeah.
And I think you look at that picture, Cologne just making a managerial change on Monday in order to try and fix the problem. And if we were to look at the table as it is right now, how much do you think it changes between now and the end of the season? You think Heidenheim or Wolfsburg are down? Who takes maybe that final relegation spot then? Well,
I'm very concerned that my St. Pauli don't have enough to be able to get away from this relegation zone, especially if Wolfsburg do find some confidence from somewhere. So that 3 point can very quickly be taken up. One good performance, 2 back-to-back wins, and all of a sudden, St. Pauli are dragged back into it. But I do think St. Pauli have enough to be able to get out of it, and watch out for FC Cologne. As you just pointed out there, they just fired their manager. They're bringing an interim manager, René Wagner, in. He's going to take the place right now as an interim basis for the last games. So I think that Cologne gets sucked into it. Wolfsburg go down, Heidenheim go down. What about you, Witty?
I think it'll finish the season as it currently is. I think Heidenheim and Wolfsburg will go down, and St. Pauli will hang on to that playoff spot.
I'm okay with that.
The recent history of the relegation playoff in Germany is that the team from the Bundesliga generally wins that game. So I think St. Pauli will be in the division next season. But nervy times, I think, for a club like Wolfsburg to go automatically down would be stunning.
I used to be friends with Chris Wittyngham. It's debatable now.
Potentially into the relegation playoffs in Pauli. Let's go to Spain then. We talked about managerial changes. Sevilla letting Matias Almeida go on the Monday, and probably the biggest reason why goes back to his time in Major League Soccer. You look how tight it is. It's extraordinary. But with Sevilla, you go back to his time with San Jose Earthquakes. They play that man-to-man style, the aggressive man-to-man style, and they're vulnerable to conceding goals. They've conceded more goals than any team in La Liga, and so Almeida goes. They are currently in 15th, but it's only 3 points clear of that relegation zone. How worried are you about Sevilla potentially staying in the division?
Honestly, it's so close. I'm not quite sure how they get sucked into this position, but all season long, they've been sort of there or thereabouts. I mean, such a historical club can easily get sucked in if you have inconsistent results. And that manager you talked about, Almeida, he is an offensive-minded coach. He doesn't really care much about defensive play, and that's what can happen in the top divisions. You can get sucked right into it. And obviously the goals conceded haven't lied. I also don't think they've scored enough goals for being such an offensive-minded team. They made a lot of mistakes offensively and just didn't take their chances. So I do believe that they'll be okay, though. And I think this managerial change sometimes does give you that managerial bounce. And for a club like Sevilla, they're taking this situation seriously, hence the news that you've just seen. I do think that this is going to be okay for Sevilla. They will escape, because there are a number of teams who are not in form right now that are below them in the table.
The one thing, though, you see with Almeida's sides is it is such a departure from how, quote, normal teams play. Almost the adjustment to go back to playing normal style football can prove difficult. But as you look at it right now, we see Oviedo significantly adrift, 8 points adrift of a survival position. You imagine they're going down. Who do you see as the other two going down?
Well, big win this weekend for Elche over Mallorca, right? That was obviously why they're not in that relegation position. I think it stays as is. So I see Mallorca down. I see Elche, Deportivo Alaves, who I've seen enough of this season, actually stay up in the division, and Sevilla will stay there as well. Rayo have to be very careful. I'm just going to throw it out there. They can also get sucked back into this very quickly, as can Girona. I don't think that happens. I think it will finish as is right now, and I do think Mallorca drop into that 18th position and stay there. What about you?
I'll only disagree with you on the Mallorca point. I think even though they lost a 6-pointer, I think they'll swap places by the end of the season with Elche. I think they have enough talent in that squad.
I love you, Holden. Sorry.
Over then to Serie A. And Fiorentina has been the story of the season at this end of the table. Obviously, currently in 16th, they got a huge point at the weekend against Inter, coming from behind to get that equalizing goal. Their goal difference has improved, and we've seen them just grind it out. It's not what we expected with Fiorentina. We're talking about them playing for Europe this season, playing once again in the Conference League. But now here they are. They realize they're in a relegation fight, and they've done well to get out of it. They're 2 points clear. Do you see them potentially getting sucked back in?
They could do, but I just don't see it. I think 2026 has been much more kinder to Fiorentina. Had they taken that form from 25 into 26, I do think that they would be in that position. But I want you to tell me why they're in that position, Chris, more than anything else, because you cover Serie A more than I do. I mean, it's crazy to me that they're even in that position.
Well, it's so interesting. We talk about this with Spurs live. We will eventually. I think you have to get into the mindset that we are a team now in a relegation fight. And I think they have a manager in Paolo Vanoli who has managed at that end of the table. And I think the players have heard them. You see after all the games, they win a game and so they go, we know that we're in a scrap. We know that every point matters. Robin Gosens has come out and said, it's about mentality. It's not about the football. It's about mentality and approaching each game as though we need to get something from it. A point is fine. We have to grind this out. That's exactly what they've done. You look at the first half of the season, nightmare. But since they've been around a mid-table level team, you look at their recent results, draw, win, draw. That's what they have to do in Serie A, is get points, win the 6-pointers, which they have done against Cremonese and against Pisa, and continue to grind it out. I think they would love to get 3 points against Verona. The fact that they had the victory against Cremonese, they will be fuming at the fact that Cremonese, they win and beat Parma to narrow that gap that little bit.
Crazy one.
Fiorentina have adjusted to their reality, and that's what you have to do when you're in a position like this.
Yeah, that Cremonese one, as you pointed out there, is massively important as we look at the table. I think obviously you can get sucked back into it so easily. Cremonese winning that game, the first victory since what, December 7th? Which is absolutely insane for a team that was looking okay actually in the first half of the season. I actually think that we'll see Lecce end up in that position, and Cremonese will build confidence now and actually stay up. I don't see Fiorentina getting sucked into it. I think they've got far too much quality. I'm a bit concerned about obviously European competition for them as well, especially with that mentality. But 26, the form tells me that they're going to be okay.
I agree with you on Fiorentina. I think they will stay up. I think I have seen more this season, and particularly recently, from Lecce than I have from Cremonese. It all depends on the fixtures and sort of the performances and the 6-pointers, but I think Lecce will do just enough to survive under Di Francesco. And last up, of course, the one that is drawing all the conversation in world football in the Premier League is the fact that Tottenham Hotspur not only are a point above the drop zone, but they had the chance, if they beat Forest at home after beating Atleti in the Champions League, to go up and provide some distance. Instead, they lose in embarrassing fashion at home to Nottingham Forest. The fans leaving, the fans booing, and there it is. They're a point off the drop. Are they going to be able to do it? Now, we see Leeds also. I think Leeds are starting to get sucked in a little bit. They're only 4 points clear of West Ham. West Ham, to be fair, turned in a stinker of their own this weekend. But my goodness, Ian, it's a legitimate possibility that Tottenham Hotspur could go down.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, the schedule is not kind to Tottenham either. Their form's been terrible. If we do see a managerial change once again, maybe they get that managerial bounce. But the players have to take this on the chin right now. They're not playing well, and they've had to deal with so many injuries. I understand that's why they're in this position, but also the players who are out there on the pitch need to do better. It's not been good enough. That big defeat against Nottingham Forest sucks you into it massively. And it's very real now. This is the first time I've said it on our show. It's very real that Tottenham can get sucked into it. But I know people will talk about even Burnley and Wolves, let alone these teams who are fighting away from that relegation zone. I still think every one of them are big clubs now. None of them are small clubs. They're all huge clubs. But Tottenham, financially, if you think about the money, what's at stake here for them. It's enormous for them. So, of course, I think that Tottenham will be okay. I'm going to stay there and still say they'll be okay. I actually think when we look at the table, of course, you can see the points where everybody's sitting on most recently in the last 5 games. I actually think West Ham can get out of that relegation zone. So I'm just going to let you know that I think Nottingham Forest can get sucked back into the relegation zone. I know it's a big win for them. I get it. I understand. But I'm going for Forest, bottom 3 out.
I am going for West Ham to also get out. I'm going to say that Tottenham Hotspur get relegated. I really believe it. I think West Ham and Nottingham Forest will do enough. The fixtures looked unkind. We'll see what they do with the manager situation. But Spurs only look like they're going one way. And if you look at the odds right now, the betting odds, West Ham and Spurs have the same figure, plus 130 to get relegated.
Yeah.
That means they think that Spurs are on a level with West Ham, a side that have been rotten at times this season. Spurs, I don't see how they're going to dig themselves out of this based off what we've seen so far.
Great point.
They are in the mire, and I don't think they're ready to apply themselves in that fight.